Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 830A, and today's date is November 30th, 2015, and the title of this episode is IMF Approves the Reserve Status of the Chinese Yuan in 2016. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, we see today, after a long Thanksgiving weekend, the markets are not doing as well as everyone thought they were going to do. Market's down a little bit today. And we're starting to hear a lot of information that Cyber Monday is this huge success. And they're not really reporting on what happened on Friday, which is Black Friday. They're staying kind of quiet about that. But we realize that no matter what the corporate media does, no matter what the U.S. government central bankers do, they're going to always try to push the meme that everything is fine and we're in a recovery, no matter what happens. So even if the sales are down, they're going to switch it around to make it seem like the sales are doing better. And we're already seeing a lot of this. Now, if everything was doing well, we wouldn't be seeing thousands upon thousands of people being laid off. We wouldn't see major corporations already planning for more layoffs in the year 2016. And we see Morgan Stanley right now. They're getting ready to basically get rid of 25% of their fixed income jobs within the next 2 weeks. They're going to be laying off people during the holiday season. And they're going to make these cuts worldwide, and they're doing it very, very quickly. Now, the question is why? Revenues have dropped in Morgan Stanley. Just like with every other corporations, a lot of the sales have declined, which means less revenue into the company, which means they can't support the number of people employed right now. But of course, the CEOs and those top executives are still getting the high bonuses. But what we're seeing right now is they're continually laying off people. If we go back to June, July of 2014, bring it fast forward up to this year, what do we see? We see almost 1 million layoffs. And as we head into 2016, it is going to get worse and worse. Now, they were out there in the corporate media and the U.S. government saying that Black Friday was not as bad as last year. But when we look at this, actually, it was worse than last year. We're looking at Black Friday, and they're trying to convince everyone that sales were doing well. Well, the problem is that the mainstream narrative is completely off, and they're flipping everything around. ShopperTrack reported that total sales on Black Friday crashed 10% to $10.4 billion. Now, if we go back to last year we had sales of about $11.6 billion in 2014. This year, we're shy of that. So actually, sales have gotten worse. So what does the corporate media do? What does the U.S. government do? What do the central bankers do? They always blame it on something else. And of course, what they're doing right now is saying, because of the fuel prices have dropped so much, people in certain areas of the country do not have work, and this is why the sales are not doing as well as they thought. They're also saying that because stores were open on Thursday, it took away from the Black Friday sales, and that's why it is not doing as well as they thought. Now, if it was snowing, they would have blamed it on snow. If it was raining hard, it would have been rain. Basically, they're just coming up with every excuse imaginable to blame it on something else. So to clarify, total sales collapsed by $1.2 billion, even as online sales rose by $150 million. So basically what we're seeing is people right now don't have the money to go out and purchase the goods. And what they did was the National Retail Federation, they changed their methodology this year. And they changed it on how they calculate the sales. And what we're seeing right now is this is how it works for pretty much everything. If we look at inflation, GDP, unemployment, housing sales, retail sales, they just continually change how they calculate these numbers to make it fit their narrative. And they're going to continually do this because they need to prove to everyone that the economy is doing well. And they'll do this until the very end. And of course, they won't even take the blame at that point. They'll blame it on some other country or group. Now, Ford Motor Company, they are going to be offshoring American jobs. Ford Motor Company said its new 4-year contract with the UAW will increase its U.S. labor costs by less than 1.5% annually by letting the company hire more low-cost workers and move production to factories in other countries. The contract allows Ford to hire an unlimited number of entry-level workers who start at a lower wage. And basically, Ford said it will be able to use more temporary workers, which are also paid less. So basically, union workers just agreed to a contract which creates or keeps some jobs and basically takes all the jobs and moves them outside the country and allows people to work part-time and entry-level work so they can pay them less. Manufacturing in this country is slowly disappearing. They are moving it out of the country. And we have proof of this because when we look at the manufacturing statistics, when we look at the Baltic Dry Index, we can see that manufacturing is non-existent. And we can see from the graph that we've shown many, many times, 1.4 million manufacturing jobs lost, 1.5 million service-oriented jobs gained. That tells the whole story right there. And we see right now that we are headed towards a complete collapse of the system. More and more indicators are coming out. The Dallas Fed manufacturing, that printed down negative 4.9%. This is the 11th month that it has contracted. This hasn't been seen outside of a recession. Actually, all of these numbers that are coming in right now are worse than a recession. We're beyond that at this point. New orders contracted once again. The entire system completely falling apart. Now, when we look at housing, we understand that Case-Shiller is telling us prices are going up. The National Association of Realtors is telling us that prices have been coming down in the last 4 months. I've been looking around, and I reported on this many, many months ago, where I already saw the stall speed, where the housing prices stalled. They already started coming down. Houses are on the market longer and longer. Mortgage applications are declining, and it's getting worse and worse as time goes on. And what we're seeing right now is that the National Association of Realtors is saying, okay, yes, we do have a problem in the housing market right now. And of course, they're blaming this on many different things. Their first area where they're switching it up, they're saying that the low oil prices are the problem because we're having all these job losses in the sector. But which is very funny is that the U.S. government central bankers are not even reporting on those jobs that are lost, but the National Association of Realtors are saying because of all these job losses, we're having the problem in sales. So, which is right? I mean, because the U.S. government didn't report on the 100,000+ jobs that were let go because of the oil prices. But the National Association of Realtors is reporting on it. So right now, pending home sales basically have fallen once again. They missed expectations. They were expecting it to be a lot better. It has declined once again. And we've been seeing this quite often now, starting back June of 2014, where we're seeing pending home sales continually falling and declining and getting worse. And what we're seeing right now is this story of how the economy is doing and what to blame it on. It's getting all mixed up and confused. And whatever is out there, that's what they're going to use at this point. We saw this happen back in 2008. Where the story was all mixed up. They tell us everything was contained, sustained, everything is fine. But when the people were getting laid off, when housing sales was completely taking a dive, they never admitted it to it until the very, very end. And of course, then they blamed it on those people who took out mortgages, who where they weren't really qualified to take out those mortgages. And we're seeing the same thing right now. But again, who gives them the mortgages? Who tells them it's a good idea to go and put 0% down? Who lowers the qualifications of getting a mortgage? Well, it's the U.S. government, central bankers, and the whole banking community, where they say, okay, you have no credit, you're not earning any money, no problem, you're approved for a housing mortgage, go buy a house. Actually, to make it even better, take out adjustable rate mortgage. This way you get the low interest rates. And don't worry, if the interest rates go up, you'll be able to lock in whenever you want. And they tried this back in 2008, and the whole thing was a complete disaster as interest rates continually rose. We're seeing the same thing happen right now. This is why they're keeping interest rates very low. This is why interest rates are not going to be adjusted in an upward way. This is why they're going to actually go negative, not positive. We're seeing Chinese buyers now. They have left the U.S. housing market completely. In recent weeks, Chinese buyers have started to pull back because of the slowing economic growth, currency devaluation, and the tightening restrictions on capital outflows. So what does that mean? That means the housing market is doomed. That means the housing market is going to accelerate in the downward trend. It's not going to improve. It's not going to get any better anytime soon. And we're going to see as we move forward into this winter and then into the spring, housing is going to start to really fall apart. And there'll be nothing that can save it whatsoever. Now, the economy, as we know, is getting weaker and weaker by the day. In many aspects, we're already in a collapse situation, and we're seeing more and more corporations lay off. Now, there's added pressure right now, which the U.S. has tried to stop many, many times before, where they were supposed to give up their voting rights in the IMF, allow the emerging markets, the emerging countries, to have more of the voting rights back in 2010. But the U.S. government kept those voting rights because they knew the outcome of that. And what we're seeing right now is that the IMF looked at the Yuan renminbi today, and they gave it the green light. They approved it, saying, yes, it can be included in the SDR basket on October 1st, 2016. So basically, this gives the U.S. government from now until October of 2016 to do what they have to do to blame this entire collapse of the system on another country and another group. The IMF says the yuan meets freely usable standard. The IMF says China is expected to help facilitate use of the SDR. Lagarde adding Yuan recognizes China's progress on reforms. And we can see already they're making their move to make the yuan a reserve currency. And as the yuan becomes a reserve currency, it may increase downward pressure on the dollar. A lot of countries will start removing the dollar from its reserve currency, adding the yuan. Russia has already said this is what they're going to start to do. And they're saying that they might take 20% of the yuan and make it their international currency reserve. So we can see at this point, there's a lot of pressure right now. The U.S. system, the dollar system, is collapsing. The IMF has approved the Chinese yuan as a reserve currency, and I remember reporting on this a year and a half ago, and here we are today. And we can see that it's a matter of time before this entire system starts really falling apart. It has already started. Countries have already been making bilateral trade agreements with China. Now, I'm not saying this is the answer to our prayers, that this is going to help everything. Actually, all we're doing is moving everything from one location, which is the West, to the East. What we really need to do is get rid of the central banking community and let the government and the people take care of creating their currency with no interest attached. So right now, the central bank of central banks, they know the dollar is dying. They're making their move to move everything from the West to the East. And of course, the central banks who are controlling the dollar, they don't want to lose power. They want the dollar to continue on forever, no matter how much debt there is in the world. But as we know, this system reaches a point where it can't go any further and it just fizzles and dies out. And the central banking system, the top tier, the Rothschilds, they don't want this to just fizzle out, because everyone's going to look at the central bank saying, okay, these systems only last for 40, 45 years. We can't have this. We can't have the central bank. We need a system that lasts forever and helps each level of a society. And this is why they're going to divert your attention from themselves over to another group or a country and blame this entire collapse on someone else. And this is why, as we approach 2016, everyone needs to really think about where they are, what they're doing, and how to prepare for what is coming. Make sure that your food is accounted for. Make sure you've been rotating it out. I mean, what I do is I deal in a lot of canned stuff. I deal in a lot of prepackaged type of food to make sure that I have reserves. And I use it. I take it, I rotate it up, look at the dates, rotate it up, buy some more, put it at the bottom of the pile, and I use it in my everyday life. And everyone should be doing the same thing. Same thing with your water. If you're keeping water, do the same exact thing. Medical supplies, yes, do the same thing. And if you haven't started, I would start ramping up on your food, your water, have a weapon to protect your family, gold and silver to basically ensure your wealth. Make sure you have currency on hand. And everyone needs to start or continue to do this. If you haven't started, you can use lifereliance.com. They have bug out bags. They have seeds, water filtration systems. You can customize your order on what you want. And it's very easy to do. But whatever you do, you need to do this at this point, because as we've seen from all these videos during Black Friday and everything else where people get crazy when there's a sale, what are they going to do when they need food, when they need water, when they need medical supplies for a sick relative or child or family member, when they're trying to go to the bank and get whatever they possibly can out of the bank? This is why you're preparing right now. This is why you're getting ready for what is coming, because you don't want to be stuck out in those crowds running into the store trying to get whatever you need to get. You want to be safe and home. You want to be safe home with your family, protecting everything that you have. Maybe bring in others that you know, that you're close with, to say, don't worry, we have enough for you. We can help you also. This is the way we need to think. And we know that this time is coming. We know it's heading here very fast. All the pieces are starting to come together now. And coming into this new year of 2016 is just going to accelerate. Look what has happened so far in 2015. This is just going to move forward and get worse as we go into 2016. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.